One of the briefs of the build was to look for, to really build in some sustainability aspects to it. So we've used LED lighting throughout. We've also invested in a pretty substantial solar system on the roof. So we've got over 50 kilowatts of solar on the roof, which won't run the entire facility, but it's a very big chunk of the electricity that we'll use. One of the things with growing Pacific oysters is that the larvae like to grow in really warm water. We've designed the building to capture heat where we can. So we've got the large greenhouse space, which is for growing algae, but it's also about capturing that heat. And we've got a fan system that can drive that heat from the greenhouse through into the production spaces. Also, the main heat pumps that will be pumping heat into the water that we use, they will be drawing the air from the ceiling in the greenhouse. So they're sucking that warm air and they're using that to heat the water rather than just using the ambient air outside. So cool little design feature. Normally, we'll have those doors open. We can look out at the Po and the view beyond to Glendoon. So yeah, it's really nice. So to have that space. This building is looking really long term. So the area has been designed to double the capacity that we have right now. This is the main office space. So this is the transition area from sort of the common staff areas and the offices through into the production space. So the first space is we call the laminar flow room, and this is where the algae, which is what we feed the spat, starts its life in here, so the parent cultures. The main algae production space. So in here the algae come out of the smaller flasks and then they're grown in water cooler bottles. This is the main lab/office space for running the larval batches. It's a big space, so it's nice and open and lots of windows so that we can see. From here you can look around and you can almost see every part of the production area. We have what we call the IC tanks, so the incubation tanks. Baby oysters spend the first 3 weeks or so of their life swimming around in the water, like plankton. After that 3 weeks, they're looking for somewhere to settle out and become spat or a baby oyster, and that's called the settlement phase, and that happens in the VIC tanks and the VIC tanks. They're a different shape because that part of the process, they change their lifestyle essentially. Getting the floors right in this building in particular, because there's water flowing in different directions, is really key. So it was actually done in 7 different pours, I think, 6 or 7. A lot of work went into the floor, but it is really important. So this is what we call the micro nursery. So once the larvae have settled and become spat, they'll spend about a week or so still in the larval rearing space, and then they'll move across into the nursery. So at the moment we do that in the existing nursery. We take them from 1 millimetre through to about 3 millimetres, but we're going to do that in this space, and the reason for that is because we've got a lot more control here. Once they get to through about 3 millimetres, they'll go to the existing nursery, the raceway nursery, and that's where we're really toughen them up, ready for the farms. Okay, so this is the greenhouse space. One of the things with growing baby shellfish, as they get older, their food requirements go up really quickly. So we start off, the very parent cultures are in 250 ml glass flasks, and then those get stepped up to 500 ml, and then 5 litres, and then 20 litres, and then 5,000. And this algae will be used to feed the spat in the micro nursery. The big bathtubs are 20,000 litres, and then the round ones are 5,000 litre tanks. So it also gives us some flexibility, like if the food production doesn't need to be that high, we can use the 5,000 litre tanks alone and not have to fire up the 20,000 litre tanks. There's a lot of space here we won't be using initially, but it will allow us to grow into it and really up that production. So, that's really exciting. The framework of the building is based on an LVL structure. It looks a bit like plywood, but it's done with really thin strips of veneer glued together, and it creates a really strong wooden structure. It doesn't rust, and we're in a salt air environment, so steel, regardless of the paint system on it, will eventually rust. But also it's produced locally, Nelson pine. It's a renewable resource. Something else which I didn't learn until we started building the building, but it's actually more fire resistant than a steel building. Steel, when it gets to a certain temperature, just melts and the whole thing falls apart, whereas the LVL will maintain its strength a whole lot longer. One of the beauties of what we've done with this building is we could have built exactly what we need right now, And the way Moana thinks and operates is to look really long term, and this building is looking really long term.